Today we're looking at one of my favourite ever guitar solos. It's from Third World Man by Steely Dan, and it's Larry Carlton playing the solo. So this comes in with some chords, really nice chords. I mean the whole solo, I'm going to try not to go on and on about how great it is, but I'm just going to show you what notes are. But yeah, lovely chords. But the first shape is this. We have a 6 on the 4th string, and then we have one finger, probably third finger, covering the 8s on the first 3 strings. So it's these notes. Play that just as a single strum. I won't go through the names of the notes and the chords in this. If you want those, let me know and I can send them to you. So that's the first one. And then we go to this, which is a typical Steely Dan chord. It's a bar over 5 strings at 9th fret, and then third finger's on the 11 on the 4th string, second finger's on the 10 on the 3rd string, and play 5 strings. And you strum that one twice, move along 2 frets and play that twice. So I'll just demonstrate those chords. And he's demonstrating a kind of a question and answer or call and response thing here. Plays the chords, plays an answering phrase, little lead thing, then plays the chords again with a different answering phrase, which then leads into the proper solo. So this is kind of like an intro to the solo. So the first answering phrase is this. You're going to put your little finger on the 6 of the 1st string, third finger on the 6 on the 2nd string, play those together, but bend up the 2nd string so the 6 sounds like an 8, let it down sound like a 6, push it up sound like an 8, let it down sound like a 6, pull off to a 4. So it's a bit complicated. I'm just going to play that one string for the moment just to show you that. So it's that, but a bit quicker. And at the same time, this little finger is on the 1st string at 6. So you get, do that slowly. There's a lot of double stops and things like that in this solo. And from there, we move the whole shape down 2 frets. So now your little finger and your third finger on 4th fret, and play the same bend and release, but this time it's not a double bend and release. It doesn't go up, down, up, down. This time it just goes up, down, and then pull off to the 2, like this. And then after that, second finger lands on the 3rd string at 3rd fret, and you pick that, slide to 5, and then play a 4 on the 2nd string with your 1st finger. So that little group of phrases together is this. Then we play the chords again, exactly the same as before. Then a similar phrase to before, but this time we go to 3rd fret with these 2 fingers. So on the first 2 strings again. And it's a bend and release and pull off to the 1st finger again. The difference here is the bend is only a semitone, so it's only, the 3 is going to a 4, not a 5. So when we did those other 2, we were doing a full tone bend. Here we're doing a semitone bend like this. So you've got to watch out for that. If you bend it too far, it sounds bad. It's out of key, so it's got to be just to a 4. So a reminder of the other 2. And this one is, it's so nice that he's gone back to that kind of phrase again. And that goes straight into another little phrase, little bluesy phrase, which is the bend on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. And it's a full tone bend, so we're bending the 3 to sound like a 5, and release back down to 3, pull off to 1. So that's, and we play a 3 on the 4th string, and then the 1st finger covers the first 4 strings at 1st fret. Play the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings, and just as as you've played those, you hammer on with your second finger onto the second string, third finger onto the fourth string. So that's a 2 there and a 4 here. That's like a little kind of Rolling Stones sort of thing. It's that shape that you've probably played before. So we strum the 3 and hammer on just with those 2. So the middle string, the third string, is still ringing as a 1, and these 2 change because you're hammering onto them. And then take those 2 away as a pull off. So that was 1 strum, but you heard the hammer on and the pull off. So I'm just going to play from the very beginning up to that point, because that's what I feel like is the intro to the solo, and then the proper solo starts after that. I'll do it slowly. And the only other thing to add is that when you end up on these notes at the end after the pull off, this finger slides up quite slowly, so it's, and you hear it deliberately slide up. Now this is where I feel like the solo properly starts. So that slide up we did at the end of the kind of intro to the solo, you end up with this first finger at 13th fret, and then you pick the strings again. And just like we did down here for the end of the intro bit, you do a hammer on and pull off with those 2 fingers. So again, you've got 3 strings ringing, you hammer on and pull off to 2 of them. Then put those fingers back on again, pick the 3 strings and slide along 2 frets. So the actual fret numbers here, we've got 15, 13, 14, and when I slide along 2, I end up with 17, 15, 16. So that was. Then we've got little finger on the 16 of the second string, and a pre-bend, which is where you bend the string without actually picking it, so you don't hear it go up, on the 15 of the third string. So you're making it sound like a 17, which is this, but without picking it. So it's not, it's actually just push it as far as you think it needs to go. Have that finger there ready, play both strings and let the bend down so you hear the release. And from there, this third finger stays where it is. On the 15 of the third string, you do a pull off to the 13 on the same string. Then pick the 13. Play the 15 on the fourth string and then pick that 13 we just did again. So that was. And there's a bit of a jump here. Go to 18 on the second string. I'd use my third finger, but it doesn't really matter too much which finger you use. You pick that note and bend it up to a 20 and then just pick it as an 18. So from the beginning of this sort of main solo, it's this. And like I did then, there's a little bit of a slide at the end. I haven't written it on my notes, but I think he probably does slide slightly to come down because the next part is down this end of the neck. So you've got the, you're going to hear his finger moving down a little bit. Then we've got some more double stops. We play 2 strings together. We've got first fret of the second string, and at the same time you're playing the third fret of the third string, but you're bending up a tone. Now that means that that note that this third string is being made to sound like by bending is a C. That's the same note that your first finger's on. So you get this kind of Hendrixy thing where the notes clash until the bend reaches its position it needs to be, and then the notes don't clash, like this. You can hear that clashing and then it stopped as I got there. It's played fast. And we do the same thing at 2nd fret. Same thing at 4th fret, but this time there's a release. So that was. Then play 5 on the 3rd string with your 2nd finger, 6 on the 3rd string with your 3rd finger, and slide to an 8. And then 2nd string, 6 with your 1st finger, followed by 3rd string, 8th fret, 3rd finger, bend and release to a 10. Then play the same string, 3rd string, 7, 8, slide to 10. Just going to play that little phrase from the double stops really slowly. And then from there we go to the 2nd string, 6, 8, bend the 8 up to sound like a 9, let it down to sound like an 8, bend it to sound like a 9 again. It's like this. And then you hold that, little finger plays the 8 on the 1st string, pick the 2nd string whilst it's ringing, let it down, push up to 9, let it down, pull off to a 6. Doesn't make a lot of sense slowly, that, but I'll demonstrate it in a minute a bit quicker. So from the 6 it was. And every time you do these double stops, you've got to make sure both strings are ringing. I always feel like that's sort of a halfway point in the solo. I don't know if it literally is, but it feels like a halfway point. So I'm just going to play the first half of the main solo that we've just been looking at. So not the intro bit, but the first half of the main solo. A little bit slower than the actual song. So on to what I think of as the second half of the main solo. You need your thumb. You could do this with a finger, but I feel like the thumb's a bit more natural for this part. I'm not sure what Larry Carlton actually did. Thumb across the top, so you're getting the E string on the 1st fret, which is an F. Play that note and slide along to the 4th fret. And then 1st finger, another double stop. Flatten down 4th fret on the first 2 strings, pick those, probably an upstroke. Play a 6 on the 3rd string, downstroke. Then play the 2 4s as an upstroke again. And then a 5 on the 3rd string this time, downstroke. The pick direction is not that important. So it's. And then move your 2nd finger along so it's on a 6 on the 3rd string, put 3rd finger underneath so you've got the 2nd and 3rd strings, both 6s. Play those 2 strings and slide to an 8. Another double stop. And then another really lovely bit where he plays a 6 on the 1st string, 8 on the 3rd string, 6 again, and then jump up to a 9 on the 1st string with your 2nd finger and play that a pull off to an 8. Then play a 9 on the 2nd string. And what's important here is to hold this 9 as you play the next few notes. So from that note, you play the 3rd string 8 with your first finger, hammer onto a 10. And then 4th string, 8, hammer onto 10. All the while this note's ringing. So I'll go from the few notes just before that. That's a little bit awkward. Try and make that note ring. And your 3rd finger's landed on a 10 on the 4th string. Keep that finger there. Play that note, but very quickly slide back to an 8 and then pull off to a 6. And then put your 3rd finger on the 8 on the same string, 4th string, slide to a 10 and leave that there. Leave it ringing. And then play the 8 on the 3rd string. Both of those are ringing, slide them up. And the position you've got to get to is 13 and 15. So it's now the 13 on the 3rd string is the next note, but we don't need to pick it because it's still ringing from where we just slid. So it's and then pick the 4th string, 15, 13 on the 3rd string, slide up to an 18 and hammer on, slide up to a 15, hammer onto an 18. Then play 16 on the 2nd string, 18 on the 2nd string. I use 2nd and 3rd fingers, doesn't matter too much which fingers. So that little phrase from down here, from the quick slide, was this. So fluid the way he plays this, and when you actually try to do this, it's quite difficult, especially up to speed. Right, the next one, 2nd finger, I think it's important to use 2nd finger here, on the 15 on the 1st string, do a semitone bend, so that's making it sound like a 16. Okay. And you bend it up, let it down to 15 again. Little bluesy bit. And then 16 on the 2nd string, 13 on the 1st. Play the 16 on 2nd again, but bend it up to an 18. Which is the same note as this 13, it's an F. Then play the 13. 16 on the 2nd string, pull off to 13. Play the 16 again, bend up to 13 again. So that little bit was. Then we play the 13 on the 1st string again, 16 on the 1st string, pull off to 13. Then a really cool bit, you play the 16 on the 1st string, you've got to bend it to a 20, that's quite a long way. There's the 20. On most guitars, with most strings, that's about as far as you can push it really, especially on the 1st string. That's a long way to bend the 1st string. Okay, and then, getting near the end, little finger on the 16 on the 2nd string, 3rd finger on the 15 on the 3rd string. There's a pre-bend, and then we let it down to 15. It's actually exactly the same as the 2nd part of the main solo, 2nd phrase. So that's, and then right on the end, we've got the 2nd string 18, bend to 20 and let down to 18. And at the same time, this is a bit funny, this, all the other notes in the solo I'm pretty confident about. This note, I'm not certain what's happening here. It sounds like there's a 16 on the 1st string at the same time. But when I do it, it kind of clashes a bit. It's hard to make that sound right. So what you might want to try is pick the 18 on the 2nd string and release it. At the same time, just lightly with your 2nd finger, play that 16 on the 1st. Because it does sound like that note's in there. Yeah, like that. That's the end of the solo. So I'm just going to demonstrate the whole thing, but I'll play it slower than the actual song, and in the description I'm going to put a link to my demo I did of this a few years ago. Okay, so I'm going to play it really slowly. Okay, it's almost one of those solos that's harder to play slow than up to speed, but I think I just about did it then, so hopefully that helps with you trying to learn it. Any questions, as always, put them in the comments. If you want to see other lessons on specific things, put that in the comments as well, and if I can, I'll try to do them. And there's a tab available for this. If someone wants to email me, get in touch, maybe buy me a coffee, and I'll send you some tab. And yeah, but any questions, put them in the comments, and click like if you liked it. Okay, thanks.